So in today's video, I am working on this garden. This is Gate Garden. This has been here for several years now, but it's just time to make a change. I am just tired of not only the weeds, of course, that have creeped in, but I'm also just kind of sick of these irises. I know, they look beautiful in early spring, but not only are they not native, but they just kind of always look bad this time of year, and the weeds have crept in. And also, as I have been working on this area, I've noticed that some of the, I don't know if you call it a rhizome or a tuber on these, but they're like a round ball almost at the root of the plant. Oh, okay. So also, this is a 9-bark that has gotten overtaken with some grass. So I will be kind of adding more mulch to this area with some like grass clippings and things I have around, and some weeds. So I'm going to be mulching this with some things I have. You can see here's some grass clippings around a red chokeberry that I recently planted. So, you know, sometimes I just kind of use what I have on hand. Look how tiny that baby is. I grew that from seed because I gathered some berries from my red chokeberry that I already have. And here's the 9-bark that's doing better. This one's doing a lot better. I don't really know why this one's doing better than the other one, other than box elder bugs were really hanging out at the other one, and I don't know that they really did anything to the other one, but I don't really have proof either way. So anyway, this gate garden has been here for years now. I originally started it as a zinnia patch, and over time I gradually added more native plants to it, and guess what? That's what we're going to do here again. This time, you guys, some of you might be like, oh gosh, this is brutal, because I am going to be digging up all of these irises, and I'm going to be just throwing them in my brush pile, because, hear me out, they're also being eaten up by grubs of some kind, so those tubers or those roots are just like getting completely eaten. So a lot of them are rotting away, and so they're just not really their best anyways. I probably should have divided them years ago. But anyway, so now we're over here at the black cherry garden, which is the rain garden. And I've got, you saw Golden Alexander just a second ago, and now you're seeing, I'm showing off the weeds, okay? I've got some weeds, but I've also got some things popping up from seed that are actually native, like this purple coneflower baby. Did you see it? That little purple coneflower among the weeds? And then here is a wild senna I planted. I started this from seed back in like January or whatever. I nurtured it in a pot for several months, and now it's in the ground, and I have a lot of weeds popping up. This is a flowering dogwood. Unfortunately, I think it's dead. I planted 2 of them. The other one, can't really see anymore. They got powdery mildew, and I didn't think powdery mildew killed plants. Do you guys know if powdery mildew can actually kill plants? Because I didn't think it did. But these got powdery mildew all over them, and they were very young saplings, so they seem to be dead to me. But I still have another one in a pot that I'm hoping will survive, and I'm hoping I can plant it, but we'll just see how it goes. Alright, I've also got, you know, the black cherry is the main plant here, but I also have an oak leaf hydrangea, have some non-native irises, just the same exact species that you saw at the gate garden, except I accidentally planted this one in the middle of the screen here. And yeah, I just threw the tuber there, and as you can see, it grew. So anyway, I will be pulling weeds from this bed and just kind of showing you what's here. This is a rattlesnake master I grew from seed this year, and I recently put it in the ground a few weeks ago, and I hope it does well. It's been growing very slowly, but it has been growing. I've been seeing some growth. And then I have a button bush in the middle of the screen there, and I have to the left of it is the American elderberry that is doing the least well out of the 3 that I have for whatever reason. And then I'm panning the bed. I'm panning, and you can see my little basket there. That was my mom's basket, and I use it for just toting around my tools. And here's the other end of the black cherry / rain garden, and I have river oats on this side. It did get a little dry here, so I did have to supplementally water them a little bit because they were starting to look a little sad, but they have since bounced back, so that's good. And then here is the oak leaf hydrangea and the golden alexanders I mentioned earlier. And you can see that this area is new. You can tell because you can see the soil, right? And then I have a pot of beautyberry and a pot of sad oats grama. And then right there is a sneezeweed on the right next to the irises that are not native. So if you recall, I have dwarf crested irises in my backyard, but I haven't moved them to gate garden specifically because gate garden gets at least 6 hours of sun a day, and dwarf crested irises, in my area at least, prefer some shade. So gate garden is not a great place for dwarf crested irises, but I do have good news. The dwarf crested irises are expanding, just like these other non-native irises expand. And so I should be able to divide them and move them around the garden, but I think they might do better in the rain garden / black cherry bed rather than gate garden. So look forward to that. Not in this video, I didn't do that yet, but come fall I might do it. We'll see if I remember to do it. Here's the arbor. This isn't really a garden tour, but I did want to just kind of show you around while I'm working on things. So back to gate garden, I decided that I wanted to transplant some purple coneflower over here, and I did, and I am now sprinkling seeds of other plants around the purple coneflowers and in the empty spaces of this bed, because this is before I bought some new plants for this bed because I wasn't quite finished weeding it. My husband did me a solid and he dug out a bunch of the other weeds that I didn't get to in this. You see me in the empty spot that I actually weeded. He pulled out a lot of the stuff on the other half of the bed because it was brutal, deep-rooted, just crazy grasses and things. So he helped me. He got those out for me. And so I'm sprinkling seeds. Now you may be wondering, what are these seeds? So these are seeds that I had left over in my fridge from this past winter sowing. What do you call it? Artificial cold stratification, where you put your seeds in the fridge. I had already used a bunch of them for my pots for winter sowing, right? And for in general planting, but I still had a bunch of seeds left in the fridge, so I was like, okay, it's hot weather. Maybe they'll come up, maybe they won't. We'll just see what happens. So I sprinkled them around. You know, I water them when I water these other plants I've added. As you can see in this footage, half this bed in this particular frame is weeded and half of it has a ton of weeds. And so you'll see later in the video, my husband has dug up those other irises and the very deeply rooted grasses. I don't want to say deeply rooted grasses. They're more like, they're non-native grasses that get a very thick root and stem. And here you go, look at this. This is after things have been completely weeded out. Almost all the weeds are gone at this point. I'm sure there's some creeping Charlie in the depths of this bed that I cannot reach. But other than that, almost all the weeds are gone. And we've got purple coneflower looking real sad on the left. We've got some new plants I bought called Pearly Everlasting. And then over here we've got the Lyreleaf Sage plants. Now, they only had one straight species left that I could find at the store, at the nursery, but the other ones I bought were purple knockout. Alright, and you know this is one of my favorite spots in the garden. This is Habitat Hedge, and this is the west side of Habitat Hedge. Chef's kiss, one of my favorite parts of my garden ever, but we have a little area that is less attractive, shall we say, and so we're going to pop in some more phlox. And as you can see, before I even had a chance to plant this plant, the butterflies were going crazy for it. Still in the pot right there. So I popped them in after pulling a bunch of weeds, some, Creeping Charlie. Most of it was Creeping Charlie. And then a few native plants that I did pull out because they're just ones that I have like thousands of. So I popped these phlox in here, and we will see if they do well. Now you can kind of see in this footage, in the far left, a phlox I already had in the very back that had gotten kind of like completely shaded. I mean, it's still living, so I hope these other phlox will be okay in this spot, but time will tell. Middle garden used to be called the island bed, but spoiler alert, I have plans to no longer have it be an island bed, which I will go over in a different video. But here is some brown-eyed Susan I bought. I bought 3 of them, and I will be putting them in it's no longer called island bed, middle garden. So middle garden is where I have my crepe myrtle. And yes, I know, crepe myrtles are not native, and this was something I planted with my mom before we understood that crepe myrtles were not native, okay? So please, give me some slack here. I agree. If I could turn back time, I would, if I knew the information I needed at the time, I would have been like, Mom, let's pick out a native tree. But at the time, I did not know. So now I have this crepe myrtle that is actually really large at this point. And maybe in the future I'll get rid of it. Maybe I won't. For now, I'm sentimental to it. Our hearts change, so one day I might rip it out, but we'll see. So this is a brown-eyed Susan, and as you can see, it is very root-bound. Good thing I did not decide to use it as a container garden plant, because that would not have gone well, even with a big container. So, and here you go, you can see a little snail just having a good time. I dug a lot of weeds out of this bed. Middle garden has never quite been... It's been one of my least favorite gardens in my garden. That sounds redundant, but I think you get what I mean. It's been my least favorite space in my garden because it just gets full of those non-native grasses. I'm pretty sure they're non-native because, I don't know, there's a native grass that looks just like a non-native grass. They look so much alike, and I think I have the non-native one, but anyway, things still eat it. Chippy eats it. I just found out a few weeks ago. And birds eat it. Fun fact. So it's still somewhat useful. Not attractive at all. It's probably like one of the least attractive plants in the garden. But, at least I don't have to feel as bad if it's here and there, because it does feed the chipmunks and the birds, even if it's, if it is the non-native. Anyway, pulled a bunch of it out because it is ugly AF, and put in some native brown-eyed Susans. And as you can see over here, I have a pawpaw tree and 2 Cytotsgrama. I should probably pop in another Cytotsgrama. I have another pot of it. I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but as you can see, this bed is a lot less weedy, and I left the violets because native violets are super important, super attractive, and just really good for ground cover. They're wonderful. They're also a host plant for fritillary butterflies, so they're a win-win-win, and when they bloom in the spring, it's just such a delight to my heart. Also, this bed has lanceleaf coreopsis in it, which is fabulous because that plant can take the drought and the heat really, really well. And what's cool is I've noticed that lanceleaf coreopsis kind of blooms like more than once. Like, it blooms multiple times a year for me, or maybe like twice. So it bloomed in the spring, and now all of a sudden it's blooming again here and there. Not as much, but it's still doing it. And I'm like, And I think I've been told in the past to deadhead it. By the way, if you guys can't tell, I do not deadhead, hardly ever. It's rare. I deadhead if I'm desperate for more blooms, because I usually don't like to deadhead because I don't like to get rid of the seeds of my plants because the birds love them. So food for thought there. But here you go. Here's the final result. We went and we bought some longleaf pine mulch, longleaf pine straw mulch. And I gotta say, I really like it. There are pros and cons to it that you can read about online, but some of the pros that I found is it smells really, really good. It smells just so good, and the bag of it is so much lighter weight than your traditional mulch is. And if you guys are wondering why I don't use arborist chips, I have used arborist chips before, and I have nothing really against them. It's just I don't really have any more room for them in the garden. I have a fenced-in garden, and I don't really know where I would have anyone drop them off at this point, because I have filled my garden pretty full at this point, and a truck can't really get in here other than my driveway, and it would be a complete inconvenience to have them put the chips on my driveway. It would be a logistical nightmare. So I bring in small bags of small quantities of mulch, because quite frankly, my favorite mulch is green mulch, and you don't just buy that in a bag. That is plants. So as you can see, I pack the garden full with plants, and where I don't have, where I have these little empty spaces is where I put some mulch. So I don't have to get a ton of mulch now, but when I first started, I did have to get it quite more often. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. This is a late flowering bone set, and it's not open yet, but I'm excited to see it open. It's a volunteer, and I hope you have a great day and happy gardening. Bye, guys. That's a button bush that I just recently planted. Okay, bye, guys. Brand new items are now available in the shop. Thanks so much to viewers like you for supporting the channel. To support the channel, like the video, comment, and subscribe. You can also support my work by buying art from me at macylou.com. Thanks for watching!